Welcome to Wahlotron, where Yulia and I come and, try to tell you about the German elections and whatnot that are going on. For those who don't know, Germany had two local elections, or as they're called in German, Landtagswahlen. Landtagswahlen. Sorry, I didn't say the fucking word. Yeah. In Baden Württemberg and Rheinland-Pfalz.
Yay.
And the thing, I kind of get the feeling currently right now that everyone's trying to make these out to be much more interesting than they are. And there is one really interesting point that we'll get to in both of them. But I hope that we try to give you the sobering take of that. Don't read too much into these. And I guess we'll go bit by bit and explain why.
We're saying it's not NRV. NRV is the only important one. No, but...
In your eyes, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess just get right into it. We'll start with Baden Württemberg, which Rob and Kieran have appropriately named just the future of Germany, which is the void and hell, because Baden Württemberg has had a Green and CDU coalition for the last 5 years? Yeah, since 2016. And this was kind of always seen as that this coalition could be the future of Germany, as in 2017. Not 2017. 2021 elections coming up in September. The Greens doing quite well in the polls recently, and this coalition being the one that has been in Baden-Württemberg since the last election has, had people maybe questioning what they could look like on a national level.
It wasn't such a big surprise for me, the outcome of this. Like in Baden-Württemberg, it was kind of, I think in both states it wasn't such a big surprise for me. But yeah, this is, of course, it is seen as something like there are eyes on Baden-Württemberg.
Eyes on Baden-Württemberg.
Because it is, it seems as it is like the future of Germany yet to come.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that then's, just like a simple breakdown of it is that then, while the Greens and the CDU are the two largest parties still, the CDU dropped off almost 3%, 2.9% of votes, and the Greens gained 2.3%. Everyone was pointing to how the AfD fell off, though, losing 5.4% of votes, and I think that this is like nationwide, just kind of a trend. And we talked about this on our AfD episode, that they're not really the party of anything else but open racism at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the FDP also gaining 2.2%, and the SPD losing 1.7%. So
it's interesting. I mean, if you're in with the AfD for economic, I don't know. Yeah, conservative economic or libertarian economic policies, you can also vote the FDP.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You don't
and
need
if
the
you're
AfD for that.
Yeah, the AfD has just kind of come out of... They're not even really like economically nationalist either.
No, they're not. They're very much...
I think that they've really just kind of kept the people in their party of just like, hey, we're racist, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So the question that then kind of comes up with with these results in Baden-Württemberg is that then how the Greens are going to go into negotiations of building coalitions, because with the CDU having so much, so many controversies currently on their plate, I do think that the Greens could just go into talks with the SPD and the FDP and be like,
traffic light coalition.
Which is fine. I mean, it's not the worst. It's better than the CDU coalition. Let's just be honest there. I do think that at least in terms of if the Greens want to show that they can also govern more, socially left-wing or socially liberal, whatever the term is, that would probably be the best option for them.
Yeah.
And then give the FDP like a couple of stupid little seats for whatever.
I mean, I think in this, like when it comes to this, it might be an interesting election, the one in Baden Württemberg, because we can see, okay, where quo vadis Grüne, quo vadis Kretschmann, quo vadis Western man. Okay, sorry, I had to. But yeah, I mean, we can see. I mean, this is interesting on the state level, on the for the federal elections, to see if. Okay, maybe the Greens say, oh, we don't really like all these corruption scandals right now. And the CDU actually knows, like the state CDU, the Baden Württemberg CDU, and the Rheinland-Pfalz CDU, they both said, oh, this is not because of us. This is due to all the scandals in the parliament, in the Bundestag, and it's not our fault that we lost.
Even though that's like literally the policy of the CDU is being the party of corruption.
Yes.
Just historically.
So yeah, when it comes
this
to
is not who we are.
This is not who we are. No, but when it comes to this, it can be very interesting to look at Baden-Württemberg and see, okay, what are the Greens willing to do? Do they want to keep this green flag thing going, or do they want to go into a traffic light coalition with FDP and SPD?
My guess is the second one, actually. I think that would make much more sense going into... I think it's kind of like twofold, right? Like, if the Greens want to actually be in true governance of being the one going in as the majority party into, September after the elections, if they show themselves being, strong-willed, that they are, one part anti-corruption and two, an actual alternative from then the, bullshit centrism of the CDU, your right-wing centrism of the CDU, I think that then on these lower elections where they do well, forming coalitions not with the CDU starts beginning to destroy this weird assumption in Germany that the CDU is the only governing party, and then you just kind of like get the opportunity to govern with them if you are big enough.
That's true. GroKo.
And like the CDU just nationally doesn't have support of people below the age of 65. And,
I mean, this could actually also mean something for the SPD in the sense of, okay, because the SPD is not doing well right now. I mean, that is their own mistake, actually.
Yeah.
But this could give them a bit of momentum if they can actually be in a coalition again in Baden-Württemberg. And I mean, what I'm thinking about is, I mean, in Baden-Württemberg, it's basically it's an election for like a charismatic character like Kretschmann. I mean, he fucking went campaigning with like, oh, you know me. I'm
literally,
that guy. Yeah. So I mean, he didn't have to do that much, but he's known to be more of a CDU Grüne, kind of like a conservative green guy. Very, very, very fitting for Baden-Württemberg, but yeah.
Yeah. I think it is also fitting to then, bring up the fact that the Greens in Baden-Württemberg are very right-wing compared to other Greens around the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when it comes to, issues like how, one of the biggest examples was sending refugees back, and the Greens overwhelmingly voted. I think every member of the Greens voted. Yeah, for in favor of deportation with the CDU and the AfD.
Yes, yeah. We should not forget that the Green is not necessarily like left wing just because their youth group sometimes is.
Or because we assume that green politics can only exist from the left, which is just not true.
That is not true, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So. To be very fair, the SPD and the FDP were the only two parties that voted against deportations on local levels.
Yeah, so on local levels.
It makes sense. But I think that from there, we just kind of have to keep an eye out of how they form their coalitions. Yeah. Again, like I said, I think we both agree on this, that it would be the smarter move for their leadership if they showed that they don't want to be in the coalition with the CDU, which would then probably mean that Habeck would not become the if this trend continues, Habeck would probably have to not step down, but he wouldn't be the first choice for the Bundeskanzler. which would mean that then this pizza, what's it called? The pizza coalition thing?
Yeah, the pizza coalition between CDU and Grüne.
Would become less of a thing, I think, nationwide.
Yeah.
And that we can kind of move on to Rheinland-Pfalz, another one that if you look at the results compared to before, so the coalition is probably going to stay the same as the traffic light coalition that they currently have of SPD, FDP, and Greens.
Yep.
The SPD did not lose all that much, of 0.5%. FDP also didn't lose that much, of 0.7%. The Greens, though, gained a lot, of 4% of votes. And the CDU, who was actually suspected for a few weeks to win, dropped off massively, not only in the polls, but also in the amount of seats that they collected, and lost 4.1% from the results of last election.
And here again, they had the argument that it's due to the corruption scandals on Bundesebene, on federal level.
Yeah, I don't give a shit what the reason is.
I mean, it doesn't matter. That is still your party. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Oh no, this isn't us. It's just it absolutely is exactly what we do all the time. Like, yeah, okay, fine, bro.
Not
like,
all
we get
CDU.
Well, yeah. So Rheinland-Pfalz, though, brings into the question of another interesting party that everyone's been talking way too much about the last 2 days, and I feel that we need to have you and I have to set the record straight about them, which is the Freie Wähler, who you know very well because you're from NRW, like what this party is. Like, they're very much a West German thing. I mean, they're not as big as they are in Bavaria, but everyone's trying to make them into like the next big thing. Yeah.
In Bavaria, they are part of like the governing coalition, as far as I know, Landtags. Not so much in other parts of Germany, but they're more of a West German phenomenon. Oh my God! Why can't you just say phenomenon? They are kind of weird, just to say it like that, because they go in different coalitions. I think they're very pragmatic about it, because as far as I know, in Brandenburg, they are like flirting with like the Greens or something. They had something going on with the Greens. They're not that strong in the East. They also had some weird shit going on with Bernd Lucke before he was part of the AfD, before the AfD even existed.
Yeah. Bernd Lucke is in the Freie Wähler Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He's like, look, one of our guys went to national prominence and is in the Bundestag.
Yeah.
He's in national parliament, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
under a different party now, though, but still, which is hilariously enough a party that then kind of looks exactly like the Freie Wähler, just on a national level.
It does.
The LKR, the Liberal Konservative Reformer, who we talked about in the AfD episode, if I'm not mistaken.
So they are, like, in general, they are kind of, they call themselves Wertekonservativ, so like being all about like values, and these values have to be re-established because Germany is losing it, and they want to do so on, especially on like local levels. They they set a focus on regions, on local politics. That's why they actually, when they are strong on local levels normally. So this Rheinland-Pfalz outcome is a surprise. But I think it's very due to them criticizing the lockdown and being for opening up businesses again, like hotels and gastronomy. And so they gained voters like among freelancers, among the age category of 35 to 44, like people that are in business, So
yeah, they are very much like a petty bourgeois sort of. Yeah. I hate using that term, but yeah, they're very much like I'm into business and I'm a businessman. I'm a startup guy, but they're not like explicitly like FDP sort of thing. They're very much the reason I think that they work so well on the local level is they very much embody this like very weird like German work ethic thing that's like entirely fabricated, you know? Mm-hmm. And there is like a hint of nationalism. There is this like kind of like weird lameness to it that then isn't the startup bro stuff that the FDP is trying to do. It's like this kind of older version of German, you know, work ethic and efficiency.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there especially, it's interesting that you brought up this.
Which is a fable, by the way.
Huh?
Which is a fable, by the way, the work ethic and efficiency.
I think it's interesting that you brought this up, like the nationalism thing or like patriotism thing, because I think what they are good at is that they are very rooted in their communities. Like on local levels, they're known. This is the guy that went here and did this, and you know they're known in the community. So it's a local patriotism, so like a local patriotism. There's this funny German word of like local patriotism, and I think that is where they're strong at. The Freie Wähler.
Yeah.
And I don't see them like being that strong on the federal level. That's why I don't see them as a threat in any way, to be honest. So,
no. Yeah. And the thing that I think is really funny that a lot of people forget about Germany as well is that the majority of this country is like small towns. Like towns where everyone knows each other. You know? Like but I mean like you're from like a small town outside of Bielefeld and everyone knows each other in this town.
Yes.
You know, and that's the majority of Germany. The majority of Germany is not this like metropolitan
it is a city.
Area.
Okay, Luna is a city.
Okay, fine. Yeah, city by German standards was just like 8,000 people or something
40,
like that. 000. I don't know. Okay, fine, whatever, small. But you still get what I'm saying though is that like if you're on the train in Germany, how many like nothing towns do you pass the entire time? And that's the majority of the country.
One of them being Luna.
Yeah. You know, and everyone, I think that especially in Bavaria, I like, of course they do well in that sense because it's like conservatism mixed with local politics, which is like their whole thing is like, we need to be more, you know, democracy oriented in the emptiest sense of the word, you know, in this like communal sort of whatever sense. And also to then that fact as well that they've become the business anti-lockdown party is also in no way surprising because that's what democracy means for people is being able to go and like, you know, do their work in their, you know, town or whatever it is. And there's no like actual, you know, political science definition of what they mean by democracy. Yeah. They just mean like freedom.
Exactly.
And
as they themselves call themselves like, bürgerliche Partei der Mitte, sachbezogen, ideologiefrei. So that translated would be like, center, bourgeois party without ideology, very rooted in the communes and like communes. Well.
Communal politics.
Communal
like
politics, exactly. And like being ideology free, which of course is bullshit. Because
of course.
You're never ideology free, especially not when you call yourself like centers or like Bürger der Mitte or something like that. And saying that you're very pragmatic and so, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you see the Pragmatism. Yeah, thank you. Oh my God, my English today doesn't work. You see the pragmatism.
It's okay.
When you look at what kind of like coalitions or what kind of coalitions they go into.
Literally anyone.
Yeah, anyone.
They will literally go to coalition with anyone.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting.
And I think it's so telling of the fact that you mentioned Bernd Lucke, who was a member of the AfD, who now is in his own party, but you know was elected into the Bundestag by being a member of the AfD, was a previous member of the Freie Wähler. And it just very much shows it then that he realized that the AfD was like this openly racist organization. He's like, well, no, I like the like, you know, as you said, like the like local patriotism stuff. I like the like local nationalism. I like being German. I don't fuck with the outright just like, you know, racism that the AfD was doing. So they broke off and formed literally the exact same party that then the Freie Wähler just don't inhabit on a national level.
Yeah.
Which is this LKR, which are not going to end up back in parliament, obviously.
No, yeah, that's true.
And I think I think that then as well, everyone's attention to the AFD in these two elections was also something slightly overstated, because the AFD, I would argue, whoever's listening to this show can obviously, think otherwise of it. I do think that then when the AFD got their prominence last Landtagswahlen in these two states of Baden Württemberg and in Rheinland-Pfalz, you could still make the argument that people were voting for them as the protest vote, not so much based on the, outright nationalism, because they weren't really in any governments at this point. And I think their falling off has been then the realization of that, of like, well, this party is actually not something I want to deal with. They don't do well in like non-working class areas in the West, which, to be very fair, Baden Württemberg and Rheinland-Pfalz are quite wealthy compared to other areas like, Ruhrgebiet in NRW, which is where like, poorer post-industrial areas of Germany are, where the AFD is like very strong.
Yeah.
These aren't those areas. And you can see that then the support of the AFD that then stayed is probably just the people who are like, well, I like that they're the further right version of the CDU or CSU,
That's why the Freie Wähler were also kind of like successful in Rheinland-Pfalz. First of all, it's a very provincial state, which is interesting. You might think like, oh, Rheinland-Pfalz, like very provincial. This should be CDU country, or like something like Bavaria. It's CSU, CDU. But actually, the SPD has been in a governing position for 30 years now, which is in like a punch in the face for the CDU, because this is the home country of Helmut Kohl. Our beloved Kanzler,
someone who's never committed, who also was not part of a massive corruption scandal.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because in 2016 they lost a lot of votes, and who was the candidate there? It was Julia Klöckner.
Can't get enough photos of her
in the woods,
hanging around in the forest.
Yeah. Just Julia.
Yeah,
Klöckner.
for those who don't know, Julia Klöckner was to be one of the up and coming stars of the CDU. We have done an episode of her on the main feed called, I believe, something about German Wine Queen or whatever, something like that. And she very much has this affinity of taking photos in the forest to let you know that she is good with dealing with agricultural and
she's our minister of agriculture. And food. Food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of makes sense in Rheinland-Pfalz, which is a state that is not going to the extremes. You didn't have like big AfD momentums in that state, or like the left is not there at all. Actually,
the left isn't in either parliament.
Exactly,
no.
But they're not like even at all in the Rheinland-Pfalz. Like they're not even mentioned in the election results. That for Rheinland-Pfalzer voters, it might be a better option to, vote for something like Freie Wähler if they are disappointed with the CDU. They might prefer to vote for Freie Wähler, which is not as extreme as AfD. So they're like, okay, this is still like bürgerlich, still like center right kind of thing. Even though I find them very like suspicious.
Oh yeah, no, I think that the Freie Wähler are incredibly suspicious. Yeah. But in that, I don't think, because there was a discussion that then we were having with Rob about if they could be like a 5-star thing, and they just don't have the I mean, not that 5-star movement was coherent, but there's no room for them to then have a massive like bump into politics. Yeah. If they do make it into the international parliament, I only it would be at the cusp of this 5%, and they aren't polling remotely close to there.
Yeah,
nationally.
I mean, yeah, they are part of the EU Parliament actually, which is interesting.
Yeah, but EU elections work much differently.
It's easier to get into that Parliament.
Yeah,
where they are part of the former ALDE coalition, as far as I know. So here they are like flirting with the libertarians again, like FDP and fellows like that, which is interesting. Like it's very
yeah. I think that we can just give it we can just simply just say it as it is. That like stop trying to make the Freie Wähler into a thing. They're not going to be a thing. The far more interesting thing that has been happening trend-wise is the CDU falling off, and whatever. Even if the reason is the corruption stuff and the Corona stuff, that's the perfect reason not to vote for this party. And the thing that I think will be the most interesting is seeing how the parties actually kind of weaponize that and go with it. Like, for example, on the national level, Karl Lauterbach saying that, the move from Spahn yesterday to stop the rollout of vaccines, of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is Germany's only vaccine that they have for people between ages 18 to 65. And then now they're waiting on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine from the United States, which has not come yet. Karl Lauterbach saying because of, obviously very flawed data that then is saying that then because 30 people out of 20 million have received blood clots, that then the CDU is saying, whoa, that's just too many.
Which I find interesting because I know this is now a thing on Twitter, but it is true when it comes to the pill. Like, I don't know, when it comes to the third generation pill, there are like data about like 20 out of 10,000 getting a blood clot or like a blood clot or a thrombose, like people taking the pill as a contraception. But so I think that was kind of like a very quick reaction that Spahn.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, like, because. It is 100% because of Brexit. That is it. There is no medical reason why you wouldn't roll this out. Yeah. Sorry. It's all because they're pissy at the UK. And I'm sorry.
If Germany wanted to use
literally, yeah. If Germany wanted to use their own vaccine, they should have bought the fucking vaccine when they had the opportunity to do so instead of letting the United States buy all of it.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Which is Jens Spahn's fault. Which is also then Merkel's fault, which is the fault of, Merkel handing it off to Ursula von der Leyen, and just a complete mismanagement of everything that's CDU related. Yes. And yes, even for Ursula von der Leyen would fall under, I would argue, into the sense of CDU, back room shaking your hand, because she was like one of the most she was a reject member of that party who they just sent off to.
To me, she's still CDU. I mean, she didn't change her affiliations or her politics, but just being boss of the EU.
Yeah. Like garbage. This party is just fucking garbage. Yep. And I really hope that they just fall apart at the seams, because I think that the era of then, exactly what we were saying at the beginning of this, the era of then Germany is just kind of a country that you get to work with the CDU from time to time. They're going to be in a coalition regardless. I think if we have two coalitions back to back that form that say, no, fuck that. This is we don't need this. The CDU is a corrupt party. They'll obviously be back into German politics as much as I dislike them and as much as just garbage as they are. They're obviously going to reinvent themselves. I don't know if their version of conservatism as it currently is going to be appeal to voters in, let's say, 5 years down the road. But I would like to see them not in a national governance, possibly as an opposition party, which this could show the momentum for.
Yes.
And I think that that's the thing to look into these last two elections this weekend. Again, we could be surprised and they could end up in weird coalitions with the CDU.
But I mean, for Rheinland-Pfalz, it's clear. But for Rheinland-Pfalz, it's also, when we talk about the SPD now, we also have to mention that because the Greens are and which is interesting for federal elections as well, the Greens get a lot of young voters. While even in Rheinland-Pfalz, the most voters the SPD got were like from 60 to over 70 years old.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how these established parties, big parties in Germany, are kind of dying out. Not dying out, but
literally,
literally.
It's that age group, yeah.
Well, I gotta correct this because they're not dying out because we have a lot of old people in Germany. So it's just interesting how, demographic.
True.
Yeah, demographics. I'm just saying it's just interesting to see how they don't appeal to young voters anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't. So there's one last thing that I wanted to address, and this is me being a little messy, but I don't really care. The thing that I saw was probably one of the silliest takes of this last weekend was that there has been this wave of trying to cover elections like people do in the United States now. Mm. And one of the most vulgar violators of this came in the form of this tweet from Malte Kreuzfeld, who is a journalist from Taz. And he writes as follows. So for those who don't know, there's a very small left-wing environmentalist party called Klimaliste Baden Württemberg, who do not get any votes. They're really cool. They're really far left-wing. They're probably the only good party the only good green party who exists in this if you don't count the left. And they're radical climate activists who form themselves into a political party. They got less than 1% of the vote, all right? But Malte Kreuzfeld thinks he has to make a vendetta against them, that they're the reason that they cannot form a green-red coalition. And he says, the climate list Baden-Württemberg received 0.9% of votes in Baden-Württemberg. And single-handedly responsible that there cannot be a green-red coalition, rather that they have to work with the FDP or the CDU in order to form a government, which this 0.9% would have won if they were to vote. I'm just assuming the people who then weren't going to vote for Klimaliste were either going to not vote or vote for Die Linke. All right. Second, that 0.9%, even if they all voted for, let's say, the SPD or the Greens, would not have changed anything. Literally would not have. And this idea that there's this bullying of having to do this whole if you don't vote for Hillary, then you're voting for Trump. And this is this is legitimately a stupid take. I do not understand for what reason someone would kind of come out of this and try to bully people who probably wouldn't be taking part in these elections regardless, and how I'm very afraid that this is going to kind of become a norm in Germany the closer we get towards national elections, of trying to understand a German system which is incredibly more complex than a simple, you vote for, Trump or Hillary or Biden or Trump or whatever, And I'm just going to say this, if you make this comparison at all, doing this really dumb thing, just stop. Just please don't comment on any elections in this country because it won't work. One, it doesn't work in the U.S. because, it doesn't whip people into shape to vote for the big parties that they're not going to vote for anyway. And two, you just look like a fucking idiot because you can't clearly do the math that below 1% would not have changed anything. Yeah. So, yeah. And I'm really afraid that we're going to see an Americanization of dealing with this type of, smaller parties thing. Because there's a bunch of small parties in Germany that get votes, Yeah. And I mean, the real one would be that then, bully the fucking people who voted for Freie Wähler.
Exactly.
That's a legitimate, that's 5%.
Yeah, bully them into voting SPD. I don't know, man.
Exactly.
Or the
but
Grünen,
the fact that
because Freie Wähler sometimes has this environmental thing going on, and sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they're well-off conservative idiots.
Exactly. With the Grünen, there would also be 4 deportations, so great. They fit well together.
Yeah. But bullying such a small, and mind you, small left-wing group, because, what are you going to, is just a fucking waste of time. And this is going to happen so much the further that you see it. And I guarantee you it's going to be you're voting for Die Linke. Why are you doing that? Die Linke is only going to get 7% this year. You should vote SPD. It's like, but the SPD does not literally line up to anything that I fucking value.
Yeah, exactly.
So why? And if it mattered, then do a red and green coalition. Then you know.
Yeah, exactly. And there, I know that this strategy makes sense in some situations in different countries, not necessarily in Germany, I would say right now.
Not on local elections. Yeah. I mean, unless it's that you're going to bully the people who vote for Freie Wähler, because that is, I would say, a very large amount in that sense. Negative, less than 1% or 5.3%. Choose your fight.
Yep.
Choose who you want to bully. Sorry, it's just lame. And in a waste of breath, even bullying. To be very fair, they're just left-wing activists. That's what they are. That's what they do as a party. Go bully the person who wants to open up their hotel as a small business owner. They're probably a piece of shit anyway. They probably would have voted for the AfD anyway too, depending on where it was. I don't know. Maybe better in that sense that they didn't vote AfD. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want this take is going to happen. It's going to happen to the left on the national level, and we're going to see that, and it's going to be garbage. And we have to. We will be there with you to hold your hand and tell you don't believe the bullshit.
Yeah.
And
I've seen a lot of people leaving the SPD recently. So it's kind of weird to bully them back in, leaving it for a more left position. So more leftist position.
Yeah, there's a reason why people are leaving the SPD in drove.
Exactly,
because they are a neoliberal shell of a social democratic party.
Yes. Okay.
Or I guess a neoliberal party within the shell of a social democratic party. Other way around. Yeah. But I guess on that note, we'll see how these coalitions form. And we'll be back in 2 weeks, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, take care.
Bye-bye.